Some people don't miss you. They miss what you regulate for them. Guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah. Happy New Year. Happy first episode of the new year. Happy season 9. This is season 9, the first episode of season 9. The podcast turns 8 this summer. And 8 years, man. 8 years is crazy to think about. And I am so grateful. Every single time I sit down to do one of these episodes, I kind of pause in my spirit and I reflect back, what this actually means to have been doing this for so long, right? To have been doing this for so long, to have been this consistent, and also doing it while no one is watching, right? Also, it's pretty cool. If you guys haven't been keeping up, I did 31 days, 31 consistent days of YouTube, and started December 1st and ended on December 31st. And if you haven't been following, go check it out. It's the Human Upgrade series, something I just created to challenge myself and to see, what would come out of recording 31 videos, right? Recording videos for 31 days straight. And when we talk about consistency, when we talk about discomfort, when we talk about vulnerability, when we talk about all these things, it shows up in the moments that you may not want to, when you think that is pointless. Okay. But it's something else when it comes to showing up that is interesting. It's when people show up and when they don't. It's funny because around the holidays or around birthdays, you get those random messages. Hey, thinking of you, wishing you a happy new year, etc. And these are people you probably haven't heard from all year. And then out of nowhere, they pop in. And sometimes it's sweet, right? No shade. Sometimes it is really cool. Then other times you got to ask yourself, who is this person reaching out for? Is it for me or for them? And it's okay to have that level of discernment, because I think we try to move through the world with a certain level of passivity that on paper it sounds great, it sounds virtuous, it sounds enlightened, it sounds altruistic. But in reality, no. We present narratives in the world like everybody is always doing their best to treat other people well, versus there being a reality of people who are very manipulative, very selfish, very self-centered. Okay? And a lot of times the only time they miss other people is when they are not accessible or they don't have access to what somebody else was offering. Not everyone who says that they miss you actually misses you. Some people miss the way your presence regulated their nervous system, their emotions, or their life. And that's the truth. And you'll know it based on how people show up and when they don't. Sometimes it's a guilt thing. Maybe I abandoned them. Sometimes it's confusion. Oh, why do they reach out now? Sometimes it's longing. Hey, do they actually care? And one of the things I think is so important is pattern recognition. Okay, this is what I talk about. This is what I coach. Pattern recognition, our own patterns, but also other people. They will save you so much stress and strife and so much self-abandonment. Okay, because a lot of times you continue to show up in connections where a person, they're only there to get what they want from you. They're not really there to offer anything. And you can see it in how they move, how they're present. So what does regulation actually mean? Okay, regulation looks like you bring calm into chaos. You absorb emotional volatility. Okay, you translate feelings they can't name. You soften their edges so they don't have to. Sometimes you're not just a friend or even a partner or a confidant. You are somebody's emotional stabilizer. And this is why I'm always a little bit discerning when people talk about having different friends for different things. Because sometimes they use people to have their needs met is not so much of a friendship as much as is access to a person who is willing to be a friend, right? And I've seen it multiple times where somebody's like, oh yeah, they realize that they don't get invited out or invited to hang out, but they are the person that somebody always calls when they're going through something, etc. And the other person's response will be, well, I know you don't like drinking or partying. Everybody has different friends for different things. You don't need to be invited everywhere. You shouldn't take that personal. But something to look at is, what am I being invited to? What initiative is this person taking to have time together outside of me just being their therapist? If that's never there, then the friendship is never there, right? A lot of times we try to pass off being friendly when it's convenient as friendship, and we expect other people to accommodate that, right? We get to half-ass other people and we expect them to still show up whole. And people may call you a friend. Sometimes you got to realize, yeah, I might be their friend and they might be my friend, but they are not my friend and I'm not theirs. You get me? I might be their friend. They might be a friend to me by definition of how I see friendship, but they are not a friend to me. Okay? I am not a friend to them. And sometimes that is truly important to realize. And people may say, oh yeah, well, you're splitting hairs and drawing straws. Well, when it comes to friendship, that's necessary. It's imperative that you be a little bit more discerning about who you call friend, because everybody ain't that. And this is why I think so many people walk through the world broken and just confused, but also very careless in their other relationships. Because nobody is doing a real checks and balances about who or what we are actually experiencing or doing with one another. Partnership too. One of the craziest questions, or craziest, reveals, I should say, is to ask a person, hey, what do you value about me? And you listen to them. You listen to what they say, you listen to what they tell you. And if everything they say is reflecting back what you do for them, then there's your answer. See, one of the things I've learned to be mindful of as I've gotten older is when somebody's like, oh, I just love your energy, or I just love being around you, or you're such a good listener, right? I know I listen well, which means that I'm also listening for when a person is checking in, for when a person is taking initiative, for when a person is considering me. Or if when they are no longer speaking, the conversation ends or their attention span checks out. Oh, I now know. I'm a placeholder, right? You're so understanding. You're so patient. And one of the best things you can learn is recognize, who is it coming from. Is it a person that is always taking you for granted? Okay. Taking advantage of your kindness? Or is it somebody who is actually reciprocating that? And when people tell you what they recognize in you, pay attention to that, because they're not blind to how you show up. That means they're not blind to what you offer, which means that when somebody seems a little confused about what it is that you're talking about when you say you don't feel valued, well, there's your proof right there. Okay. It's okay to pay attention to when somebody reaches out. And this is the whole thing about people who are like, well, yeah, we don't have to talk all the time, right? We should be able to go time without speaking and things still be sweet. That's cool, but when do you reach out? And if the connection is only contingent on when you decide you're ready to reach out, then that lets me know that it's not for me, it's for you. Because if two people feel that, hey, yeah, we shouldn't have to talk all the time, that's not necessary, then what if we are never on each other's schedules when we are ready to talk, when the Spirit moves us? What if the Spirit moves me at a different time than it moves you? And the moment you're ready to talk, I'm not ready. And the moment I'm ready, you're not ready. Then the relationship suffers, right? This is why it's important to be intentional and recognize that relationships require inconvenience. Because if we go by that, yeah, then we can never be in each other's lives. It's easy. So if a person is only reaching out when things fall apart, that's an indicator. It's not for you. If they say, I miss you, but they never ask how you are, yeah, they probably miss the access, they miss the energy. If you realize the conversations immediately go into crisis mode or turn heavy, all right? If they ask how you are only for that to be an invite for them to talk about themselves. If you realize when you stop initiating, the relationship goes silent. Or when you kind of take a step back, that's when they actually put in effort. Then that's something to be mindful of. If your absence creates distress, but your presence never received care, that wasn't intimacy, that was dependency. And sometimes people may not realize it for a few reasons, okay? A lot of people were never taught self-regulation. Many people were never taught self-regulation. You probably didn't place any boundaries or communicate. Okay, let's be clear. Our responsibility is there too. Okay. Some people confuse relief with connection, which is why once they get their needs met, it's like a high, right? I can go about my business. They associate safety with access rather than reciprocity. And some people aren't malicious, they're unconscious. But still, intention versus impact. If somebody lacks that much awareness, they're still not a safe person. And unconscious harm is still harm. Okay. And sometimes this dynamic may feel confusing to you. You know, why do they say they care but they don't show up? Why do you feel drained but still bonded? Why walking away feels cruel even when staying hurts? Okay. Your nervous system learned that love meant being useful. But once you stop overfunctioning, that's when the shift happens. When you recognize what the relationship actually is, when you do set some boundaries, you become quieter, you become slower, you become less available. Well, what happens next? They panic. They accuse you of changing, or they just simply disappear. And the relationship didn't end because you left, it ended because you stopped regulating it alone. So one way to tell the difference between someone who misses you versus they miss the regulation. They genuinely miss you if they ask about your inner world. They adjust their behavior. They respect your boundaries. They offer repair, not just nostalgia. They miss regulation if they want access without effort. They guilt you for your distance. They resist change. They romanticize the past but avoid the present. And there is a grief, truthfully, that comes with realizing that you were loved for what you provided. Okay? You finally realize that, oh man, this probably wasn't a relationship, a friendship at all. I was just an emotional container for these people. And you can let go without villainizing them, but you could also let go without villainizing yourself. You got to realize you're not grieving the person. You're grieving the role you played in the hope that it would become reciprocal. So how do you reclaim your energy and reclaim yourself? Well, first of all, you need to realize duality. You're allowed to be warm without being absorbing. You can care without carrying. And love does not mean being in connection with people. That's not what love is. Okay? You don't owe regulation to people who don't learn it themselves. Give people the level of relationship that they deserve with you, not what you were willing to offer up. If somebody only misses you, only when you're gone, but never show up when you're there, that's not longing. Okay? That's withdrawal. So, be mindful. Okay? Around the holidays, I notice that everybody kind of pops out of the woodworks. But the more boundaries you have, the more peace you have. And don't be so afraid of being with yourself that you're willing to entertain anybody that pops up at your door. Okay? Because sometimes that is more draining than you just recognizing, hey, I don't want to keep being siphoned for what I offer. I don't want to keep being extracted from. I genuinely desire presence. I deserve presence. I'm willing to offer presence. And once you can land there, then your relationships will look and feel a lot healthier. Sometimes people don't miss you as the person, they miss what you offer. I almost said it's just information. But yeah, that's really something to think about as you move into the new year. And if you're the type of person, pay attention to how you treat the people in your life. Are they a resource for you, or is it a relationship that you actually respect? That's something to think about. All right? Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take flight.